Liberal Viewer presents.
So, with a record $3 billion estimated to be spent on TV advertising in the 2010 U.S. midterm elections, and with a lot more of that money coming from anonymous donors this year, the CNN program State of the Union with Candy Crowley that I watch every Sunday morning spent nearly the full hour on the campaign finance issue last week, but never really answered the big question the host asked her guests, Evan Tracy of the Campaign Media Analysis Group and Michael Duffy of Time Magazine, that you can see here.
Let me just ask you both, just because both of you follow this, understand, the differences between this a 1C and this a 1-4 and all that kind of stuff. Is it a danger to democracy to have people who can anonymously give money to groups who then run ads to influence elections?
But instead of detailing the danger to democracy from the corrupting influence of large undisclosed political expenditures, Time's Michael Duffy just discussed the political implications of the problem, as you can see in the continuation of that clip here.
Do you think that's true?
Well, in 1972, Richard Nixon had the Townhouse Project, which was basically a White House-run secret special interest fund, and it took Congress 3 years to fix it. And that was with a democratically reform-minded Congress. If the Congress believes at some point this needs to be changed or reformed, it's going to take much longer now than it did in the 1970s to turn it around. So I believe that both parties will say this is horrible and it's bad for democracy, but until we fix it, let's try it ourselves.
Of course, Democrats tried to fix this problem earlier this year in a bill that would have required some disclosure from some of those so-called foundations that can currently run ads without disclosing who's donating to them. And earlier in the CNN program, senior Obama advisor David Axelrod was on the program making just that point, as you can see here.
So let me tell you something. People don't disclose. There's a reason. We tried to pass a law through the United States Congress that would force all these organizations, whether they support Democrats or Republicans, to disclose where their money is coming from. 59 Democrats in the Senate voted for it. Every Democrat. 41 Republicans in the Senate used a procedural technique, a filibuster, to block a vote on this because they wanted to keep it secret. Why?
Now, while there were problems with the legislation David Axelrod was talking about there, like the fact that it exempted larger, more established groups from having to disclose donors, at least what David Axelrod said there was true, which is more than I can say for what he said later here.
We have taken off the contribution limits. We've just taken them off for big corporations and special interests who can give money to these secret funds. If you and I give a contribution, it's limited to $2,300, and we have to divulge who, that we're participating. Through these funds, they can give unlimited amounts of money. They can give $100 million and never have to disclose, and that's wrong.
Now, what was wrong there was David Axelrod's implication that somehow corporations have a greater ability to make anonymous donations than individuals, when, in fact, wealthy people have the same ability to give undisclosed contributions to these foundations that can then run political ads. But the erroneous information did not just come from the left on this issue, because conservative Christian Republican Gary Bauer was also on that same CNN program, erroneously blaming the lack of disclosure of big corporate political expenditures on the courts, as you can see in this clip.
The courts have said, for very good reasons, I might say, that in these kinds of ads, there doesn't have to be disclosure. The first court decision on this involved the NAACP in Alabama. Somebody wanted to get their list of donors. Bigots wanted to get the list of donors so they could harass the people that were donating to the NAACP.
No, it isn't the courts that say that in these kinds of ads there doesn't have to be disclosure. And the 1958 Supreme Court case of the NAACP versus Alabama protected the civil rights organization from having to disclose its entire membership list, not just large cash donors. And in fact, if you read the recent Supreme Court decision in the Citizens United case, you'll find the court ruling that without evidence showing a reasonable probability that donors would be harassed in a particular case, disclosure requirements do not violate First Amendment rights. As the court wrote, quote, "The First Amendment protects political speech, and disclosure permits citizens and shareholders to react to the speech of corporate entities in a proper way. This transparency enables the electorate to make informed decisions and give proper weight to different speakers and messages." Unquote. So blaming the courts for all the undisclosed corporate money buying political attack ads this year is not really accurate, though I haven't seen that fact clearly explained in the media, and even that CNN program devoting almost the entire hour to the campaign finance issue only touched on that aspect very quickly near the end in this clip.
One thing really quickly, Citizens United, as I understand it, nod your heads yes or no because I've got to go, tinkered around the edges, but you were always, those anonymous donors existed pre this Supreme Court decision.
Yeah, it was a subtle change in law which had a huge practical
right.
impact.
I just wanted to clarify that. Okay,
exactly.
Great. Come back and explain this to us.
I don't think Candy Crowley and her guests there adequately explained that it's a law passed by Congress that allows some groups to buy political ads without disclosing their donors, and the recent Supreme Court decision only lets those groups buy ads closer to the election that more directly target a specific candidate, which is why, even though I didn't support the Disclose Act that David Axelrod and the Democrats tried to pass earlier this year because it exempted larger, more established groups from having to disclose donors, I do think that Congress needs to pass a fair law to prevent the danger to democracy from the corrupting influence of large, undisclosed political expenditures, but I want to know what you think. Should the law require the disclosure of who contributes large amounts of money to independent groups buying campaign ads? And regarding the specifics of such a law, exactly how large should a political contribution have to be from an individual or a corporation before the danger of corruption from non-disclosure outweighs the right to anonymous political speech?
YouTube, you decide.